She sat outside a cafe every night with a paper cup, not asking for money, only water. People looked away. One man noticed. What began as silence became a legal promise, a quiet choice, and a home no one saw coming. Sometimes rescue doesn't shout. It listens. Seattle wore winter like a soft bruise, gray skies, silver rain streetlights, glowing honey against wet pavement. Outside Harbor and Ember Cafe, where people came for foam art and quiet miracles, a little girl sat with the stillness of someone trying not to take up space. Her name was Luna Hale, 7 years old, too young for the kind of calm she carried. She didn't hold a sign. She didn't call out. She didn't chase anyone. She just kept a paper cup, creased, faded, and careful in both hands, like it was something sacred. Cars whispered by. Umbrellas bloomed and vanished. A woman in a wool coat glanced down, read Luna's silence the wrong way, and tightened her grip on her purse. A man stepped around her as if she were a puddle. Luna's eyes followed the cafe door. Not the pastries. Not the warmth behind the glass. The water pitcher that sometimes appeared near the counter. When the door opened, a ribbon of warm air slipped out, and Luna breathed it in like a memory. The smell of coffee, cinnamon, fresh bread. She didn't ask for anything. She just waited. A barista inside Maya noticed her again like she did every evening. Maya's face pinched with worry, and a question she didn't know how to ask without making it worse. Luna lowered her gaze before anyone could meet it too long, because too much attention could turn kindness into a spectacle. She lifted the paper cup slightly, not toward people, toward the rain. The cup caught a few drops and then spilled uselessly down the side. Luna blinked once, twice, then pressed her lips together in a small, stubborn line. She wasn't begging. She was measuring hope. On the sidewalk beside her, the cafe's golden light made a halo on the wet ground. Luna watched that light as if it were a doorway, and in her hands, the paper cup waited empty, patient, and quiet. People were generous in ways that didn't require looking. A few steps away, a couple dropped coins into a street musician's case without breaking their conversation. Someone held a door for a stranger and called it a good deed. Someone else posted a photo of their latte heart-shaped foam and all and wrote grateful for the little things. Luna watched all of it with the careful expression of a child trying to be invisible and hopeful at the same time. Inside the cafe, Maya leaned on the counter and whispered to the shift lead. "Derek, she's back. Same spot, same cup." Derek's jaw tightened, not from cruelty but from stress. Rent, reviews, rules, the unspoken pressure of keeping the cafe safe and comfortable for customers who paid for comfort. "Maybe she's asking for money," Derek murmured. Maya shook her head. "I've never seen her take money. She doesn't hold it out like that." Derek glanced through the window. Luna sat with her knees pulled in shoes, damp hair curled from the mist. The cup rested in her hands like a tiny bowl. A customer noticed, too. A woman in a sleek coat frowned and said, "Is the cafe doing something about that? It's uncomfortable." That word, uncomfortable, fell like a pebble into a pond. Small, heavy, rippling. Maya's cheeks flushed. "She's a child," she said softly, as if saying it louder might make the world behave better. Derek took a breath and tried to choose the safest option. "I'll go talk to her, nicely. Just see what she needs." Maya nodded quickly. "Yes, kindly." Derek pushed the door open and stepped outside, hands visible, voice gentle. "Hey there, sweetheart." "You okay?" Luna looked up, not startled, not scared, just wary like she'd been misunderstood before. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply lifted the paper cup a little higher. Derek's eyes flicked to it. He expected the clink of coins. He expected a request. Instead, Luna's voice came out small, steady, and polite. "Sir, may I have water?" The rain tapped the awning. Derek blinked, caught off guard by how simple the truth was. Maya appeared in the doorway already reaching for a cup, and Luna waited, still dignified, like asking for water was the bravest thing she'd done all day. At exactly 6:18 p.m., a black car rolled to the curb like it belonged to the street itself. The driver stepped out first, scanning the sidewalk with the quiet efficiency of someone trained to remove problems before they became headlines. He opened the rear door, and Elliot Cross emerged, 32 clean-cut, expensive coat eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to rest. Seattle knew his name, or at least his company's. Elliot owned Harbor and Ember, not because he needed another cafe, but because he'd once believed warm places could change people. Tonight he didn't come for warmth. He came for silence. He entered with a nod that didn't invite conversation. Maya straightened. Derek rubbed his hands on his apron. The room shifted, subtle, respectful, careful. Elliot ordered black coffee, no sugar, no performance. His voice was calm, but it carried a tired edge, like he'd been holding too much together for too long. He chose a table near the window, the kind of seat that let him watch the city without being watched back. Outside, Derek handed Luna a small cup of water with two hands, like it mattered. Luna accepted it the same way. Two hands, careful, grateful without turning gratitude into a show. Elliot's gaze drifted past them, unfocused. He saw movement, a child-sized shape, a barista by the door. Then his phone buzzed, pulling him back into his world of contracts and numbers and problems that wore suits. He looked down and missed the most important moment on the sidewalk. Luna took one sip, then another, slow, respectful, as if she couldn't trust that water was allowed to be hers. Derek spoke gently again. "Do you have someone I can call for you?" Luna hesitated. Her eyes went to the cafe light, then to the wet street. "I'm okay," she said, not because it was true, but because it was safer than explaining. Inside, Elliot stared at his untouched coffee, unaware that just beyond the glass, a paper cup and a 7-year-old girl were quietly rearranging the shape of his night, and soon his life. The cup of water trembled slightly in Luna's hands, not from fear, but from the effort of holding herself together. She took careful sips, counting them the way some children counted steps or stars. 1, 2, 3. Enough to quiet the ache, not enough to invite questions. Rain slid down the cafe window in thin silver lines. Inside, people laughed softly, steam lifting from mugs. Outside, Luna stayed where the light reached her shoes, but not her face. Derek crouched a little, keeping his voice level. "You can have more if you want." Luna nodded, then shook her head. A practiced contradiction. More meant staying. Staying meant attention. "Thank you," she said, because manners were something no one could take away. Maya watched from the doorway, hands folded tight. She noticed how Luna never drank fast, never spilled, never wasted. She noticed the paper cup creased, but clean, tucked into Luna's jacket when the water was gone. "You heading somewhere warm tonight?" Maya asked softly. Luna hesitated. The truth hovered too big, too exposed. She chose a safer answer. "I'm okay." It wasn't a lie. It was a shield. A customer passed and paused, eyes flicking to the child, then away. The word uncomfortable drifted back into the room, unspoken but felt. Derek straightened, caught between kindness and rules that weren't written for 7-year-olds with paper cups. "Hey," he said gently, "we close the patio soon." Luna understood. She always did. Adults rarely had to say the hardest parts out loud. She stood smoothing her jacket, tucking the cup away. She bowed her head just a little and stepped back from the light. "Thank you for the water," she said again. Then she walked toward the rain. Not fast, not slow, just steady enough to suggest she knew where she was going, even if she didn't. Maya felt something twist in her chest. She reached for the door, then stopped. Too much help she'd learned could feel like harm. Luna disappeared into the gray, leaving the sidewalk shining and the cafe quieter than before. The rain thickened, tapping the awning with quiet insistence. Inside, Elliot Cross lifted his cup, took a distracted sip, and frowned at the bitterness. He set it down untouched. Numbers glowed on his phone. Meetings stacked, decisions waiting. He told himself this was why he came control clarity quiet. Then he noticed something small near the door. A paper cup sat by the threshold, damp around the rim, folded at the lip, as if it had been held carefully. No coins, no bills, just watermarks and rain. Maya followed his gaze. She must have dropped it, she said. Elliot stood without meaning to. He picked up the cup. It weighed nothing. He turned it gently as if it might explain itself. No money, he murmured. Derek nodded. She asked for water. That landed differently. Elliot walked to the window. Outside, the sidewalk was empty where the child had been. The bench glistened. The light pooled where small shoes had stood. Do we get many kids like that, he asked. Maya shook her head. Not like her. Elliot nodded once, already feeling a familiar discomfort, the kind that came from realizing something important had passed while he was looking down. Keep the cup, he said. Don't throw it away. Maya hesitated. Then she set it on a shelf near the register, away from the trash where it didn't belong, and somehow did. Later, when the cafe slowed, Elliot asked for the security feed. Not to accuse, to understand. The footage showed Luna arriving early, choosing the same spot, holding the cup close. It showed her lifting it not to people but toward the counter. It showed her asking for water, saying thank you, leaving before she was told to. Elliot watched it twice. The second time, he didn't look away. The next evening, Elliot returned earlier than usual. He didn't announce himself. He didn't take the window seat. He ordered a coffee and a glass of water and asked Maya quietly to place the water on the small table outside. Just leave it there, he said. No sign. The rain was lighter tonight. The city breathed. Luna appeared at the corner like a thought you couldn't shake. Same jacket, same careful steps, same paper cup, this one newer but still thin. She stopped when she saw the water. No one stood beside it. No one watched, at least no one obvious. Luna waited, counted the cars, counted her breaths. Then she reached out. She didn't rush. She didn't smile. She touched the glass as if it might vanish. When it didn't, she poured the water into her cup slowly, reverently, then set the glass back exactly where it was. Inside, Elliot felt something ease in his chest. Luna drank. Once. Twice. Enough. She looked up at the cafe window, not searching for a face, but acknowledging a kindness she didn't need to name. When she left, she didn't hurry. Elliot stayed seated long after his coffee went cold. He understood now that help didn't have to be loud to be life-changing. That protection could begin with water and space and respect. Outside, the table was empty again. But the city felt different. And somewhere in the quiet between rain and light, a decision was forming, careful, lawful, patient. The kind that would take time. The kind that would last. Elliot watched the security footage alone, long after the cafe lights dimmed. The screen showed the sidewalk in fragments, rain reflections, people passing like thoughts that didn't stay. Then Luna appeared, small and steady, choosing the same square of light. The paper cup was there again, held close, never extended. He leaned forward. The camera caught details the room had missed, how she positioned herself so she wouldn't block the door, how she stepped back when people approached, how she looked at the water pitcher instead of the cash register. When Derek came outside, Elliot's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in anticipation of a mistake he feared he'd already made. But the footage surprised him. The exchange was calm, respectful. Luna's voice barely reached the mic. "May I have water?" Elliot paused the video. He rewound, watched again and again. No coins, no outstretched palm, no performance. Just a child asking for the most basic thing and making it small enough not to bother anyone. He let the video play. Luna drank carefully, said thank you, left before she was asked to. The paper cup slipped from her jacket as she stepped away unnoticed by everyone except the camera. Elliot sat back, the glow of the screen washing his face pale. He felt the familiar ache of recognition, the kind that came when you realized you'd been looking at the world through numbers for too long. He closed his laptop and stared at the dark window, seeing his reflection layered over the empty sidewalk. Water, he said aloud, testing the word. She asked for water. It wasn't pity that settled in his chest. It was responsibility. Not to fix everything. Not to be seen. But to do this correctly. Elliot reached for his phone and typed a note to himself. No shortcuts. No spectacle. Start with the right people. He didn't sleep much that night. Elliot hadn't thought about his own childhood in years. But memory doesn't ask permission. It came back to him in pieces, waiting rooms with magazines from last year, the hum of vending machines, the quiet discipline of not asking for things because asking made adults uncomfortable. He'd never been hungry the way Luna was. He knew that. But he knew the other thing, the way silence could feel safer than honesty, the way being easy could become a survival skill. He arrived at the cafe early before the rush. The rain had lifted, leaving the air clean and sharp. Maya noticed his mood immediately. Everything okay? Elliot nodded. I want to make sure we're doing this right. He asked questions not about Luna but about policy. What the cafe was allowed to do. What it wasn't. Who to call when a child needed help without being frightened by it. Maya relaxed a little when she realized he wasn't looking for blame. She doesn't like attention, Maya said. She just wants to be left in peace. Elliot absorbed that. Peace, not rescue, not charity. Later, he called his attorney not to draft anything dramatic, but to ask about community protocols, child welfare, emergency support that didn't involve uniforms or raised voices. Slow, the attorney advised. Transparent, child-centered. That's the plan, Elliot said. That afternoon, Elliot walked the block where Luna usually disappeared. He noticed things he'd never noticed before: a vent that pushed warm air, a streetlight that stayed brighter than the others, a bench positioned just close enough to light without being in it. He understood then how a child could map safety in pieces. Back at the cafe, he placed the paper cup on the shelf again, not as evidence, as a reminder. When evening came, Elliot took the window seat not to watch Luna but to watch himself, to make sure he didn't turn kindness into pressure. Outside, the city waited. Elliot didn't want to be part of the moment, so he arranged it so he wouldn't be. He asked Maya to set a glass of water on the small outdoor table, no note, no explanation. Just water, clean and ordinary, catching the last of the daylight. Leave it, he said. If it's gone, it's gone. The city moved around the table without noticing it. Shoes passed. Conversations floated by. The glass stayed. Then Luna appeared. She slowed when she saw the water, stopped at the edge of the light. Her shoulders lifted and fell with a careful breath. She waited. Minutes passed. No one claimed the glass. No one watched, at least not obviously. Luna stepped forward. She touched the rim with one finger, then pulled back. She checked the cafe door, the window, the street. Only then did she pour the water into her cup, slowly, steady hands, no spill. She didn't drink right away. She stood there, letting herself believe it was allowed. Inside, Elliot kept his eyes on his coffee. When Luna finally drank, it was with a softness that made the moment feel private, even in public. She set the empty glass back on the table exactly as she'd found it. Before she left, she looked up at the window. Not searching, acknowledging. Elliot felt it like a quiet bell in his chest. That night, when the table was empty again, Elliot wrote another note to himself. Next step support that follows the law and her lead. The glass had been a beginning, not an answer. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, folded too precisely to be casual. It wasn't addressed to Luna. It wasn't addressed to Elliot. It was addressed to Harbor and Ember Cafe, and it spoke in the careful language of concern. A report. Anonymous. Polite. Vague. There is a minor regularly lingering outside your establishment. This may pose a safety and liability issue. Please advise how this is being handled. Maya read it twice before bringing it to Elliot's table. Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. I didn't call anyone, she said quickly. None of us did. I know, Elliot replied. He read the letter once. Then again. He felt the familiar tightening in his chest, not fear, but the weight of consequence. This was the moment when good intentions often turned into damage if handled poorly. Do nothing yet, he said. We don't react. We prepare. He called his attorney and forwarded the letter. No defensiveness, no denial, just facts. That afternoon, a city liaison followed up with an email. It was careful, neutral, procedural. It asked about safety plans, about visibility, about compliance. Elliot answered personally. He wrote about water access, about staff training, about the steps already taken to avoid confrontation or distress. He didn't mention Luna by name. He didn't describe her situation. He protected her privacy the way he would have wanted his own protected. When he finished, he sat with the paper cup on the shelf and realized something important. The system wasn't the enemy. It just needed someone to meet it honestly. The meeting took place in a small office with neutral walls and chairs designed to make everyone feel equal and no one feel accused. A child welfare coordinator named Rachel Moreno sat across from Elliot. Hands folded, eyes attentive. No clipboard between them, no raised voices, no urgency designed to frighten. We received a concern, Rachel said. That doesn't mean wrongdoing. It means we talk. Elliot nodded. That's all I want. They spoke about Luna without labels, a child, a pattern, a need. Rachel explained the difference between removal and support, between intervention and intrusion. We prioritize stability, she said, and consent where possible. Elliot asked questions that surprised her. About timing, about trauma-informed approaches, about what not to do. I don't want uniforms showing up, he said quietly. I don't want her to feel like she did something wrong. Rachel considered him. Neither do we. They agreed on a plan that unfolded slowly and visibly. Outreach through community partners. A caseworker in plain clothes. Options presented, not imposed. No pressure. No surprises. Outside the cafe, the table with the glass of water remained. So did the quiet. That evening, Luna arrived as usual. She noticed the new sign near the door, not a warning, but an invitation: water available here. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She nodded once. Inside, Elliot watched from a distance and felt something shift, not relief, but resolve. This was no longer about a single child. It was about setting a standard that didn't harm the ones it was meant to help. Change didn't arrive all at once. It came in small permissions. A community partner set up a discreet outreach schedule, no uniforms, no sirens, just conversation offered gently. A brochure left on a table, a phone number written in pencil. Luna noticed the difference. The way adults spoke slower. The way no one stood too close. The way questions were phrased as choices. One evening, Rachel appeared near the cafe, not approaching Luna directly. She sat on the bench, sipped coffee, waited. When Luna finally spoke, it was on her terms. Is the water okay? Luna asked. Rachel smiled. It's always okay. They talked about warm places, about nights, about options. Rachel didn't promise anything she couldn't deliver. She didn't ask for details Luna wasn't ready to give. Inside, Elliot signed the final paperwork to designate Harbor and Ember as a community hydration and meal support point, fully compliant, fully transparent. No headlines, no announcements, just a door that stayed open. When Luna left that night, she didn't hurry. She paused by the table, looked at the sign again, then at the cafe light spilling onto the sidewalk. She wasn't being watched. She was being welcomed. And for the first time, the city didn't feel like something she had to survive, but something that might one day hold her. Luna learned quickly that the new questions were different. They didn't begin with why. They began with what. Rachel met her on the same bench again, hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee she never quite finished. The city hummed softly around them, as if giving them room. "What would help you tonight?" Rachel asked. Luna looked at the ground, then at the cafe light, then back at the bench. Wanting things felt dangerous, like opening a door you might have to slam shut. "I don't like loud places," Luna said finally. Rachel nodded. "Okay, and I like lights that stay on." "Okay," Rachel said again, as if each word mattered. No promises followed, no sudden plans, just a list written in pencil, things Luna was allowed to want without having to explain why. Inside the cafe, Elliot listened from a distance he'd chosen carefully. He didn't interrupt. He didn't step in. He understood now that presence could be supportive without being central. Later, Rachel offered options, not directives. A short-term stay in a small, quiet place. A room with a door that locked from the inside. A light switch Luna could control. "You can say no," Rachel said. "Or later." Luna's fingers curled around the paper cup in her pocket, the newer one thicker, still creased from use. She thought of the rain, the bench, the glass on the table that had waited without asking. "Later," she said. Then after a pause, "Maybe tonight." Rachel smiled, not wide, not relieved. Just steady. Inside, Elliot exhaled slowly. Not because something was ending, but because something was beginning the right way. The hallway was quiet in a way Luna had never trusted before. Not the sharp quiet that came before shouting. Not the thin quiet that meant don't move. This quiet felt wide, like it wasn't watching her. She stood in the doorway, small backpack hanging from one shoulder, fingers curled tight around the strap. The room waited. It didn't rush her. It didn't ask her to prove she belonged. Rachel stayed just outside, careful not to step in first. "You can go in when you're ready," she said, "and you can leave the door open or closed. Your choice." Luna nodded, unsure which choice was safer. She took one step inside. The room was simple. A bed with a blanket folded neatly at the end. A desk by the window. A lamp already turned on, casting a warm circle of light that didn't flicker. The window looked out at another building, plain brick, steady, unmoving. Luna liked that. Nothing unexpected. She didn't move farther. She waited for the rules. None came. Rachel spoke softly. "The bathroom's down the hall. Breakfast is in the morning. I'll be nearby all night." Then she paused. "You don't have to sleep yet." Luna looked at the bed like it might disappear if she touched it. Slowly, she reached out and pressed her hand against the mattress. It held. No creak. No warning. She sat down. Her feet didn't touch the floor. Luna's breath caught, then evened out as she tested the space with small movements, shifting her weight, leaning back, sitting up again. Each time the room stayed with her. On the nightstand, there was a glass of water. Clear. Full. No lid. No sign. No one pointing to it. She didn't drink right away. Rachel placed a small card on the desk. "That's my number," she said, "if you need anything." Or nothing. At the door, she stopped. "Good night, Luna." When the door closed, Luna froze, muscles tight, ears straining. Nothing happened. The silence stayed gentle. She slipped off her backpack and set it carefully against the wall. From its front pocket, she took out the paper cup. The edges were soft from use, the rim bent just enough to remember her hands. She placed the cup beside the glass of water. Old need, new safety, side by side. Luna reached for the lamp. Click. The light went off. Her heart jumped. Click. The light came back on. She laughed, just a breath of a sound, surprised and quiet, like she wasn't sure laughter was allowed yet. She drank the water slowly without counting the sips. When she finished, she didn't refill the cup. She didn't need to. Luna lay down, fully clothed, blanket pulled to her chin, lamp left on because she could. Her eyes stayed open for a while, watching the light make shapes on the ceiling. No footsteps came. No voices rose. No one told her she had to leave. Sleep arrived gently, like it had been waiting for permission. And for the first time, Luna slept through the night, not because she was exhausted, but because she was safe. Morning did not arrive all at once. It slipped in quietly, the way light does when it knows it's welcome. Luna woke to a pale stripe of sun crossing the wall. For a moment, she didn't move. She waited for the familiar rush of questions. Where am I? What did I forget? How fast do I need to be? But they didn't come. The room held its shape. The lamp still stood where she'd left it. The chair by the desk hadn't moved. She sat up slowly, feet dangling above the floor, and listened. No shouting, no hurried footsteps, no doors slamming somewhere she couldn't see. The quiet stayed gentle. Luna slid off the bed and stood there, testing the morning with her toes. She crossed the room and touched the window glass. Cool, solid, real. Outside, the city was already moving, but it felt farther away than it ever had before, like something she could observe without needing to keep up. There was a soft knock. Rachel waited on the other side of the door until Luna said, "Yes." Breakfast came on a small tray, simple, warm, unannounced. Rachel didn't hover. She sat in the chair and spoke like this was an ordinary morning, which somehow made it feel possible. "How did you sleep?" she asked. Luna considered the question carefully. Honesty felt new. "All night," she said. Rachel smiled, not too wide. "Would you like to stay another night?" The word stay echoed, bright and careful. Luna looked around the room, the bed, the lamp, the glass of water now empty on the nightstand. Her paper cup sat beside it, dry and folded like something finished with its job. "I like it here," Luna said. She waited for the feeling to disappear. It didn't. "Okay," Rachel replied. "Then we'll stay." Later, after Rachel left, Luna sat on the bed and ate slowly. She didn't rush. No one was counting. When she finished, she folded the napkin and placed it neatly on the tray, the way she always had when she needed to prove she was careful. Only now she realized she didn't need to prove anything. Across the city, Elliot Cross received the update in a single sentence. "She slept safely. She wants to stay." He read it twice. He didn't ask for details. He didn't request photos or reports. He closed his phone and stood at the window of his office, watching the city the way he always had, but with a different measure. For years, staying had been something he'd avoided. Places were temporary. People were temporary. Stability felt like a promise that might break if you leaned on it too hard. Now, a 7-year-old girl had chosen it. That evening, Luna stood in the doorway of her room and looked down the hall. She recognized the turn to the bathroom, the sound of the building settling, the rhythm of this place that didn't ask her to be smaller. She picked up the paper cup and turned it over in her hands. For a long moment, she considered throwing it away. Then she placed it gently in her backpack instead. Not because she needed it, because it had gotten her here. Luna turned off the lamp this time before lying down. She left it off. The dark didn't rush her. It waited. As she closed her eyes, a new thought appeared, quiet, unfamiliar, and warm. Tomorrow is already taken care of. And for the first time in her life, Luna didn't wonder where she would go next. She wondered what it might be like to keep staying. The decision did not arrive as a moment. It arrived as a process. For Luna, the days began to develop edges, soft ones. Mornings had a shape now. Breakfast came with choices. Afternoons came with quiet activities that didn't require explanations. Evenings ended with the same hallway light glowing at a steady brightness, as if the building itself had agreed to watch over her. Nothing was rushed. That mattered more than anyone said out loud. Rachel explained things slowly sometimes over 2 conversations instead of 1. There are steps, she told Luna one afternoon sitting at the small table while rain traced lines down the window. And you get to ask questions. You get to say how you feel. Luna traced a circle on the tabletop with her finger. Do I have to decide right now? No, Rachel said gently. You never have to decide all at once. That night, Elliot Cross sat across from his attorney in an office lit by a single desk lamp. The city outside pulsed with ambition and speed, but inside the conversation moved carefully. This isn't about custody, Elliot said. Not yet. It's about stability. The attorney nodded. Then we proceed with support. Temporary guardianship considerations only if the child wants continued contact. I don't want to confuse her, Elliot said. Or make promises I can't keep. That's the right instinct, the attorney replied. Courts trust people who don't rush. Paperwork followed, not dramatic, not final. Background checks, home evaluations, training sessions that focused on listening rather than control. Elliot attended everyone without complaint, sitting among people whose lives looked nothing like his and exactly like it all at once. He didn't talk about Luna publicly. He didn't visit her unannounced. He respected the boundaries that protected her sense of safety, even when every instinct urged him to do more. Across town, Luna learned new words. Schedule, routine, choice. She learned that adults could explain things twice without growing impatient. That questions didn't always lead to consequences. That staying didn't mean being trapped. One afternoon, Rachel asked, "Would you like to meet the person who helped set this up?" Luna stiffened. Her eyes flicked to the door. "Not today," she said quickly. Rachel nodded. "That's okay." Days passed. Then one evening, as Luna folded a blanket with careful precision, she asked quietly, "Is he nice?" Rachel smiled. "Yes. And he listens." Luna thought about that, about listening, about how the glass of water had waited without asking. Maybe she said, "But not long." The meeting happened in a room with 2 chairs and a window. No desk between them, no pressure in the air. Elliot arrived early and stood until Luna entered. He didn't kneel. He didn't reach out. He didn't smile too wide. "Hi, Luna," he said. "I'm Elliot." Luna studied him the way she studied everything new carefully, without giving anything away. "Hi," she replied. They sat. Silence stretched, then settled. "I like your backpack," Elliot said, because it was true and because it didn't ask for anything. Luna nodded. "It's old." "Some old things are good," Elliot said. She considered that. Then she said, "You didn't take the water away." Elliot swallowed. "No, it was yours." They didn't talk long. They didn't need to. When Luna stood to leave, she paused. "You didn't make it loud," she said. Elliot understood exactly what she meant. "I won't," he promised, not as a vow, but as a rule. After she left, Elliot sat alone and let the weight of the path ahead settle on him. This wasn't rescue. It wasn't charity. It was commitment, with witnesses, with safeguards, with time. And for the first time, Luna walked back down the hallway without looking over her shoulder. Something had begun. Not loudly, not suddenly, but the right way. Fear did not disappear just because things were calm. It changed shape. For Luna, it became quieter, harder to point to, easier to miss. It showed up in the pause before she answered questions, in the way she lined things up on the nightstand before sleeping, in the habit of keeping her backpack zipped even when she didn't plan to go anywhere. She was staying. And staying, she had learned, could still end. Rachel noticed the signs the way she noticed everything else without alarm. One afternoon, as they worked on a puzzle at the small table, Rachel said, "Sometimes when things get better, it can feel scary." Luna didn't look up. Because they might stop. Yes, Rachel said. Luna fitted a piece into place, pressed it down harder than necessary. If I like it too much, she said, does that make it harder if it goes away? Rachel waited. Let the question breathe. It can, she said honestly, but liking something doesn't make it leave. Luna thought about that. She wasn't convinced, but she stored the idea somewhere safe. Later that evening, Elliot received an email outlining the next step. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't an ending. It was an invitation to proceed slowly toward something more permanent, if Luna wished it. He closed his laptop and sat very still. This was the moment where many adults failed not by doing too little but by wanting too much, by letting their certainty outrun a child's pace. Elliot didn't call anyone. He went for a walk instead, letting the city's wet streets and steady lights remind him that permanence was built from ordinary choices repeated. When he returned home, he wrote a short note to himself and taped it inside a drawer he rarely opened. Let her lead. The next meeting happened days later again, by choice. Luna asked for it herself. I want to see him again, she told Rachel. Just to talk. This time they met in a quieter space, a small room with a low shelf of books and a window that looked onto a courtyard. Elliot arrived early and brought nothing with him. No gifts, no plans, just time. Luna sat across from him and studied his hands. They were still. Open. Are you busy? She asked. Elliot smiled slightly. I can be, but not right now. She nodded, satisfied. You don't talk a lot. I'm trying to learn, he said. Luna considered that. I don't like when people decide things without me. I don't either, Elliot said, especially things about you. That was when the fear finally surfaced, clear and sharp. If I say yes, Luna asked, voice small but steady, can I say no later? The room seemed to hold its breath. Yes, Elliot said immediately. You can always say no. And I won't get in trouble, no, he said. You won't. Luna pressed her lips together, thinking. This was the question beneath all the others, the one she'd carried since the bench, since the rain, since the paper cup. What if I stay, she said, and then you change your mind? Elliot didn't answer quickly. He didn't fill the space with reassurance that sounded like a performance. I don't make decisions lightly, he said. And if we take the next step, it will be with people watching courts, counselors, rules, not just feelings. She looked up. Rules can be good. They can, he agreed. They can protect you. Luna leaned back in her chair. The room didn't tilt. The floor didn't drop away. Everything stayed where it was. When the meeting ended, she stood at the door and hesitated. I like the light, she said. In the room. Elliot nodded. We'll keep it. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. That night, Luna lay in bed with the lamp turned off. The dark didn't rush her anymore. It waited respectful. She reached into her backpack and touched the folded paper cup just once, then let her hand fall back to the blanket. For the first time, fear didn't tell her to run. It asked her to be careful. And Luna was learning the difference. The courtroom did not look like the ones in movies. There were no raised voices, no dramatic pauses, no moment where everyone stood at once. It was smaller than Luna expected. Lighter, too. Sunlight fell through tall windows and settled on polished wood, warm and ordinary. The air smelled faintly of paper and coffee, nothing sharp, nothing cold. Luna sat between Rachel and a woman she'd met only twice before, Ms. Klein, whose job was to explain things slowly and make sure Luna understood them. Ms. Klein wore soft colors and spoke like she had nowhere else to be. You can hold this, she said, placing a smooth stone in Luna's palm. Some kids like to have something solid. Luna nodded and closed her fingers around it. Across the room, Elliot Cross sat quietly at a table with his attorney. He didn't look at Luna right away. He knew better than to turn presence into pressure. He focused on the grain of the wood beneath his hands, steadying himself. When the judge entered, everyone rose calm, respectful. The judge smiled not for show, but because this was the part of the job that mattered most. "Good morning," she said. "We're here to talk about next steps, not endings, not ownership, next steps." Rachel explained the process again, even though they'd all heard it before. She used the same words, the same tone, because consistency was a kind of safety. The attorney spoke about evaluations, home visits, timelines. The judge asked questions that sounded simple but carried weight. Then she turned to Luna. "Hi, Luna," the judge said. "Do you know why you're here today?" Luna's heart beat fast, but the room didn't shrink. She felt the stone in her hand. She felt Rachel beside her. She felt unexpectedly ready. "To talk," Luna said. "About staying." The judge nodded. "That's right, and you don't have to decide everything today." Luna looked up surprised. The judge smiled again. "We don't rush important things." Elliot felt his shoulders ease just a fraction. The judge asked Luna questions that gave her space. What she liked about where she was staying. What made her feel safe. What she didn't like. Luna answered carefully, choosing words the way she always had, but now they landed. When the judge asked if Luna understood she could say no at any point, Luna nodded. "Yes." "And do you know that saying yes today doesn't mean saying yes forever?" the judge continued. Luna thought about the lamp, the glass of water, the way mornings came quietly now. "Yes," she said again. Then the judge turned to Elliot. "Mr. Cross," she said, "you understand this process places the child's needs above your wishes." "Yes," Elliot replied without hesitation, "and that it requires patience, oversight, and accountability." "Yes." The judge watched him for a moment, measuring something beyond words. Then she nodded. "This court approves moving forward," she said, "with continued supervision, with support services in place, and with the understanding that this is a commitment, not a gesture." There was no gavel slam, no applause, just a soft sound as the judge signed her name. Luna blinked. "That's it," she whispered. Ms. Klein smiled. "That's it for today." Outside the courtroom, the hallway felt brighter. People passed by, busy with their own lives. No one stopped. No one stared. Luna liked that. Elliot stood a few steps away, giving Luna space. When she looked at him, he waited, didn't move until she did. "Is it loud now?" Luna asked. "No," he said. "It stays quiet." She nodded, satisfied. They didn't celebrate. They didn't go anywhere special. Elliot drove them back separately the way the plan required. Luna returned to her room with Rachel, carrying nothing new, just the stone in her pocket. That night, Luna placed the stone on the nightstand beside the lamp. The paper cup stayed folded in her backpack. She turned off the light and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Nothing dramatic had happened, and somehow that made it feel real. Across the city, Elliot opened the drawer where he'd taped the note, "Let her lead," and added another beneath it. "Stay steady." Because this wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment the ground stopped shifting. And for Luna, that was enough. The house didn't feel like a house yet. It felt like a place that was deciding what it wanted to be. Sunlight moved slowly across the hardwood floor, tracing lines that changed with the hour. The rooms were quiet, not empty, just waiting. Elliot stood in the hallway with his hands in his pockets, listening to the soft echo of the space, aware that this moment mattered more than any closing document he'd ever signed. Luna stepped inside carefully. She didn't run ahead. She didn't ask questions. She walked as if she were measuring the floor with her steps, learning where the light settled, where sound traveled, where she could stand without being in the way. "This is just for now," Elliot said, not as a warning, but as reassurance. "Nothing is finished yet." Luna nodded. She liked that he didn't pretend otherwise. At the end of the hall, there was a door painted a pale, patient blue. Elliot opened it and stepped aside. The room was simple: a bed by the window, a desk, a lamp already plugged in. The walls were bare, no assumptions, no themes, no declarations about who she should be. On the door, written in careful block letters, was a small wooden plaque. Luna froze. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just reached out and touched the letters one by one as if making sure they were real. "My name," she said quietly. "Yes," Elliot replied. "Only if you want it there." Luna nodded once. "I do." She walked into the room and set her backpack down near the bed. She opened it and took out the folded paper cup. For a moment she considered putting it on the nightstand. Instead, she placed it in the top drawer of the desk and closed it gently. Not hidden. Kept. She crossed to the window and looked out. The street was calm. People passed. Life continued. For the first time, Luna didn't feel like she was standing outside of it. Elliot stayed in the doorway, giving her space. "You can change anything," he said. "Or nothing." Luna turned and studied the room again. "I like it how it is," she said. That evening, they ate at the small kitchen table. Not a ceremony, just dinner. Luna listened more than she spoke. Elliot did the same. Afterward, Luna turned on the lamp in her room and sat at the desk, tracing letters on a blank page. Her name. Then again. Then once more. Down the hall, Elliot paused, listening to the quiet sound of a pencil moving. The house settled around them, not claiming, not celebrating, just beginning to learn them both. And for the first time, Luna closed a door behind her, not to keep the world out, but because she knew she could open it again. The shelf was small and ordinary, set just above the desk, where sunlight reached it in the late afternoon. Luna chose it herself. She stood on a stool, careful and balanced, and placed the folded paper cup there with both hands. It looked different in the room, out of context, quiet, almost too small to matter. But it did. Elliot watched from the doorway, saying nothing. He understood that some things didn't need to be explained to be respected. The cup stayed where it was, next to a smooth stone and a thin book with a blue cover. Not a shrine, not a reminder of pain, just a marker of distance traveled. That evening, Luna sat at the desk and drew. Not tables, not benches, not rain. She drew a window with light behind it, a bed beneath it, a figure sitting nearby, not large, not small, just present. When she finished, she didn't fold the paper or hide it away. She taped it to the wall beside her desk, crooked but confident. At dinner, Luna asked, "Can we have water at the table?" Elliot smiled. "Always." She nodded, satisfied. Later, when the house quieted, Luna reached up and touched the paper cup once, just enough to feel its edge, then turned off the lamp. The light didn't stay on tonight. She didn't need it to. Somewhere between the shelf and the dark, Luna realized something simple and steady. She wasn't keeping the cup anymore. She was keeping the home. The first morning that truly felt like morning arrived without announcement. Luna woke before the alarm and lay still, listening to the house breathe. Pipes clicked softly. A floorboard shifted somewhere down the hall. Ordinary sounds, no warnings hidden inside them. She sat up and looked around her room. Her room. The name on the door. The shelf above the desk. The paper cup resting quietly where it belonged. Luna slid out of bed and padded to the kitchen. Elliot was already there, pouring water into 2 glasses. He set one in front of her without asking. She wrapped her hands around it, feeling the cool weight, the certainty of it. "I don't need the cup anymore," she said, not looking up. Elliot nodded. "I know." They drank in comfortable silence. Later, Luna returned to her room and took the paper cup down from the shelf. She turned it in her hands, then folded it once more, careful, respectful, and placed it in the desk drawer. Not as something to hold on to, as something to remember. That afternoon, Luna wrote her name at the top of a fresh page and added a sentence beneath it, slowly, carefully, "I am home." She closed the notebook and slid it into the drawer beside the cup. Outside, the city moved on. Cars passed. People hurried. None of it felt like it could take this away. Because home, Luna had learned, wasn't something you asked for in a paper cup. It was something built quietly, patiently, and filled every day. And in a house that had learned her name, nothing was empty anymore. Did this story touch your heart? Let us know how you felt. Rate it from 1 to 10 in the comments below. If it moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Don't forget to tap the bell so you never miss our next heartfelt story. Click the end screen to watch more emotional journeys. See you in the next one.